Podcasting since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts Radio Network. KingofPodcasts.com.
Radio's last grasp to relevancy needs to be diminished.
The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Welcome to the program. This is King of Podcasts here with you with another episode here of the Broadcasters Podcast. I want to go into a commentary tonight talking about radio and the methodology that is holding back and keeping handicapped the performance of the Billboard Hot 100 chart. It's so stale right now. In the last couple of years, it's not even funny anymore. But this is the thing where things don't change in radio. What things happen in radio stay the same. And the fact that radio wants to keep things in a certain flux. When corporate radio is holding on to things, it's just keeping changes that are just irrelevant and not worth it. Okay? So to give you the idea of the mindset of radio and how they just don't care, I want to give you a story that actually has been rolling around this week because of a couple things. 106.7 KROQ Los Angeles, K-Rock, the world famous K-Rock. So we had something happen this week. Kevin Ryder, known for the morning show of Kevin and Bean, that was on the air for, 30 years plus on that station? Kevin returned back to K-Rock after a 5-year hiatus. He's back doing afternoons. But K-Rock is still a station that is not the same as it once was. It still has made through a lot of changes anyway. So there was a point where the current playlist of K-Rock changed and made a big significant change before when it comes to what the station was turning into. Back in 2020, there were changes where more pop hits were being embedded into the K-Rock playlist. And one of those they brought up right away was Post Malone's Circles, got put into power rotation, which didn't even have any spins in March 1st of 2020, but then all of a sudden, 32 plays. By the end of March, 65 spins a week. And for 65, that's a pretty moderate rotation for a station like this. At that time, Kevin Weatherly, who was the program director at the time, was being told you need to take a pay cut, about 30% pay cut. Then he left to go to Spotify. And Kevin Ryder was fired after 3 decades at that station. And again, 5 years later, he comes back. After everything. It's like water under the bridge. Here we go. You're back. And there's something about the fact that, unfortunately, Kevin Ryder has to go ahead and tolerate this kind of abuse. And when people saw this happen, I remember I talked about this on my When I'm Not Podcasting series. I wanted to put this out there because I thought it was very, very important. So back in May of 2020, I talked about it. Mike Kaplan was a new brand manager for K-Rock, and Kaplan decided to go put the song Circles into the playlist, mandated that all talent no longer refer to the station as K-Rock, but as rather as call letters KROQ almost exclusively. And the very sound of the word rock purportedly offended Kaplan, not only feeling it was antiquated, but borderline toxic. He says, rock equals death. That was the way, and the story was from Variety Magazine at that time. It's the end of the world, the famous K-Rock as we know it. Well, now it's back to where it was. If you look at the current playlist, they're playing The Killers, they're playing Green Day, they're playing Joe, they're playing Coldplay. They are more or less looking like they're back to their normal roots. Whatever reason, they're being allowed to go and do that. Linkin Park, Blink-182, Red Hot Chili Peppers, sounds like their normal bread and butter, what they would listen to. So it's there now. It's changed. But the thing is that these kind of changes happen so much, and it's like these kind of things happen that are so unabashedly no humbleness by this station on how they're able to go and treat people and how these stations are being used all the time. So at the time, M. Casper 369 writes on a comment that I made about this video that I put back in 2020. He says, the end of K-Rock for me was when they fired Kevin in 2020. I'd been listening to K-Rock since 1979. Enjoyed the alternative sounds with Richard. Kevin and Bean came onto the scene in the 90s. Loved Tammy, followed by Jed with his awesome catch of the day. I mean, K-Rock was awesome. It was always on my radio in the car. Background while in the office. Been to 3 weenie roasts. Have all the Kevin and Bean Christmas tape / CDs. Yes, first one was a cassette. Was always left in tears with a new detective. Shakespeare Man. Paul, the 55-year-old intern. Kennedy. who's now on Fox News and MTV fame. Not to mention MMM, Mr. Bertram, and Jimmy when he was funny. Just a whole lifetime of listening, and now sadly it's all gone. Now I don't even stop the 106.7 while scanning the jackasses that took it, ever destroyed it, kind of like they did the KMET in the late 80s. Radio doesn't take care of itself. Corporate radio is irresponsible. They are not doing anything right now to serve the public. If you look at the radio stations and what they're playing right now, it's saturated where certain new music is out there on a regular basis. Look at how many songs we get on Spotify on a regular basis, or Apple Music. How much new music we get regularly? Dozens of new songs. You have to ask yourself, why, in this current age, are we having an issue where Billboard and the radio mythology that comes with it, that is so weighed heavily on the Billboard Hot 100, why is controlled so much? It's simply going to keep certain songs at the very top of the top 10, while other songs never get even close. And the real representation of what people are listening to around the country is not well represented. We know that other charts in other markets are weighed differently. They don't concern themselves, because also the radio stations there are also up with the times. They're not in this corporate mindset to where they are basically suffocating new music from being allowed to be discovered on radio stations. And these radio stations are not listenable because of the glutton of advertising they have on there, of bad advertising at that. And then getting to the point where the people that you have that are introducing songs, if they're even introducing songs at all, they have promos, they have other things they're doing. That means nothing. But that's what they're doing, because they have no other choice but to go and present that, because that's what their program directors are being told to do and what the management's telling them to do. And it's not benefiting anyone. So you look at where the Billboard Hot 100 is right now. People are complaining about the fact that it is very stale. There are no changes to it. And if you look at what the Billboard Hot 100 looks like today compared to what we see on other charts, well, Media Base is the radio chart. And if you look at what they do, the songs that are allowed to go and be played and put up front in that top 40 of the Media Base top 40 list of their 7-day charts, if you look at what they have, I'm looking right now at the current list for the week ending for the week ending April 3rd, 2025. Currently, number one song on radio is Bedcam by Sabrina Carpenter. Die With a Smile, Lady Gaga, Bruno Mars, number 2. Gracie Abrams, That's So True, 3. Pink Pony Club, Chappell Roan, 4. Luther, Kendrick Lamar, and SZA, 5, which is actually the current number one song right now in the country. Then you have SZA with BMF. Lola Young and Messy, Lola Young and Messy's been around for 3 months. Now it's just getting up into the top 10. Okay. Rosé and Bruno Mars, Apt, which has been out since October last year. Now at number 8. Teddy Swims, Bad Dreams at 9. Tate McRae, Sports Car at 10. Now Tate McRae, Sports Car, it's because at least Tate McRae as an artist are starting to be a little more radio friendly about. So I can appreciate that. But they might be inflating her a little bit because of the fact of how the radio methodology works and what they're doing. Because on the Hot 100 chart, she doesn't reach up to the top 10. And even on the Billboard Hot 100 mix they have coming up right now, I'm looking as we speak, and Sports Car's not up in that top 20. But radio gives it a little bit of something because it's an artist that radio is getting behind. I guess they're finally getting behind for a change, for whatever reason. But then you look at the rest of the list, it's like there's so many songs here that have been around forever, and they have not moved forward. And honestly, I look at what they're doing right now in the top 40. You can absolutely tell that radio stations are not taking much time to play anything outside of the top 20 because of the numbers and how quickly they drop in terms of spins. Now, let me put it to you like this. Your top 7 songs in the media-based charts have 5-figure spins, over 10,000 spins each. When you drop down into the top 10 to the top 20, it goes down roughly to 3,000 to 7,000 spins. Now, let's just say that's all right, that's kind of considering the top 7, top 10. That's your heavy rotation. those songs are probably played on radio right now, let's say 80 to 110 times a week. Then about 30 to 70 plays, which is like maybe like once or twice a day. Actually, a couple times a day. Let's just say that. A couple times a day. Some of these other songs from the 10 to 20 might actually be played, if these stations want to do that. Or these stations might play a little bit heavier, but others don't, so that's why the spins are much less. When you look at this list, you got Lady Gaga's Abracadabra, which obviously, as an established artist, she's going to get a radio push. Weeknd will get an obvious push. Benson Boomer, because of Beautiful Things, gets a push for his song Sorry I'm Here for, and I forget the rest of the song, Sailor Song by Gigi Perez, it's actually been around for 6 months plus. The Come On When You Break Up, Selena Gomez, Benny Blanco, Gracie Abrams, that's a lot of radio power behind that. Love Somebody, Morgan Wallen, which has been up in the charts for a long time. The Maria's No One Noticed, which has been a breakout hit from the indie into the main charts. Doechie's The Niles River. They're trying to really push her as a big major star right now in radio. And Billie Eilish's Wildflower and Doechie's Anxiety, because anxiety is the only fact is that it's gotten viral. And for whatever reason, it did get something in here because the spins have gone up significantly, about a good 66% for that. Other than that, there are so many songs that are on here that if you look at the artists and just say to yourself, okay, they're not even being listed, if they're listed at all, on the Billboard Hot 100, which because radio only cares about that top 20, top 10. So the airplay that they have on those charts are significantly way higher, which is what makes those songs go to the top because of the methodology, the algorithm, the calculation that Billboard has right now is an antiquated list. And look, it's a normal thing for Billboard to have to make a change when their charts become antiquated and the evolution of the music industry and the music that we have out there changes. And it's been going on forever since the start of the chart. Let's go into why. First of all, there was a great story that I found on Reddit that really explained everything really well of what's going on here. So the Reddit page Popheads put up a post called The Guide to the Billboard Hot 100 and explained everything that's going on with the charts and all the changes that happened since. And I've talked about one of these particular distinctions throughout the years on this program because of where I'm looking at the charts based on the American Top 40 chart. But Reddit might have the best possible explanation of the charts. And when you learn the history of the charts and how they have made changes, this is why we need to go and go farther more than ever before. Because it needs to be done. It was much easier to determine what the chart was going to actually represent what songs were being popularized in the public because of how it was being calculated with linear technology, right? We didn't have the digital technology that we have now. That all changed in 1991. But from the beginning, at the 4th of August, 1958, the formula that was being done initially for the Hot 100 chart were retail sales, DJ plays, jukebox activity. And it was collected through surveys of retailers, radio station DJs, and jukebox operators. So a very good idea of, okay, the DJs going to be playing the songs that they're going to play them. The retailers, they're going to be able to know what they're being sold. And the jukeboxes will have the most popular hits. And you will know people that will actually spend with their coins. They will operate the machines and pick the songs they want. And you'll really know what that is. So the jukebox portion of the charts have been replaced by streaming. That's the first thing we have. We now have a jukebox in streaming. That is replacing it. So in the original format, they should always look at streaming as more important. It's been incorporated into the charts, but they always want to make sales and airplay always be the most prominent things. But now we're at the point in the Billboard Hot 100 that needs to change. They have no choice to do that right now. Because you also have to imagine, when you're looking at the amount of sales versus streaming right now these days, it's significant. Radio doesn't even play all the songs that could be eligible for the Hot 100 chart. That they could be playing all these songs. They refuse to play them. So there's no amount of money because of the Payola issues. There is a Payola scandal still going on, but it's because the big corporate companies are able to go ahead and go after the handful of regional music directors of all these corporate radio companies They handle all these formats, whether it's country, whether it's top 40, whether it's urban, all of it. They can make their own changes to it. And they can control what the radio airplay is going to be in this whole format with the control of these big music labels, able to still spend money in ways or spend to bribe or entice or persuade these small gaggle of music directors at the behest of the corporate radio giants. They're going to go ahead and just do what they're being told. And so there's plenty of songs that are not going to play. And they're going to say that they have the audience-centric testing and the research that will say such. So only maybe the next 10 songs they have that will get played a lot will be new, but everything else, it'll be a hodgepodge. The media-based chart right now, when you look at it in the top 40, after the top 10, it is a hodgepodge. So Doechie's in there several times. Alex Warren, we haven't heard much about, but he's in there. Payola, because they are trying to push her into a certain way. Lizzo, Kendrick Lamar, Rose, Bon Jovi and Pitbull, Shabuzi, and Chappell Roan in that top 20, or in the top 30 as a matter of fact. But if you look even go farther down, the listing of songs that you have possible to be put in that are in the top 40 in this particular chart, Chris Brown's Residuals, which has been a song like it's been forever. I don't know anybody who's playing that song. Max McNown, A Lot More Free. That's like just some random artist that's probably being pushed by radio. That's like a nobody, but there's somebody who wants to get behind him and say, let's go ahead and push him and let's see what happens. Justice, featuring Tame Impala's Never Ender. Alex Warden's Ordinary, which is very low on the charts here, but it is top 5 in the UK and in other markets. Drake's Nokia, which is becoming a viral song off the most recent Drake and Party Next Door album collaboration. Jenny and Dua Lipa's Handlebars, SZA's 30 for 30, Jonas Brothers Loving the Heaven, which like Jonas Brothers, hey, if they put a song out, radio's going to try to give it a chance and see what happens. Also, Marshmello and Jonas Brothers Slow Motion also on this chart. And Audrix, Where the Boys Are. I don't even know who these people are. But like there's these random names that come up here on this chart. And I guess some people are playing it, but remember, if they're being played at all, they're being played overnight or at some other time that nobody's listening. Just to get charted, just to get counted into the mix. But that's not representative of what the pop charts are. You know, and the whole idea of having the CHR related charts these days, it's no longer something that has to be the same anymore. We can go back to the top 40. These stations should be playing a top 40 format. If they wanted to go and be competitive, if they want to actually get their audience back and get a younger audience to adapt and adopt, well, they should be doing it. Anyway, back to the story from Reddit. So the big change that happened was in November 1991, and the Billboard issue for the week ending November 30th, 1991. Because Nielsen SoundScan would officially replace the surveys collecting data to create the Hot 100. Now you had accurate sales figures from a point-of-sale system instead of ranked lists, which is what retailers had sent for the decades prior, and electronically monitored AI data compiled by Nielsen BDS. So surveys of radio airplay and retail sales with actual precise data. And that honestly changed the charts itself. Now, with this, it also then, because you had a better representation of what the charts actually had, it changed the charts. And when that change came into play, American Top 40 said, well, there's certain songs that make it into the top 40 now that the top 40 chart, we can't play. Because in the charts by that point, they were getting so diverse. And it was so outside of the norm of what radio was playing. And also at that time in 1991, we know there were changes right now because pop had changed so much from the 80s going into the 90s. We had so much in terms of hip hop coming into play, becoming mainstream. Having dance music very prominent at this point, Latin freestyle, various other rhythmic formatted music making it to mainstream. And that wasn't what pop music wanted. They wanted something different. And until the new pop stars came in, they just didn't like it. And that change, the pop did not really resonate until the mid to late 90s. All the boy bands, all the big girl stars, everything that was changed, big difference. So now, in this chart, they have that as of last check, let's see, The Hot 100 chart would change in 2007 on August 4th because it started including on-demand streaming. For the first time, they had it in the charts. On-demand streaming from AOL Music and Yahoo Music. So streaming started becoming into the mix at this point. There was also a thing they did at one point that was really out there and people didn't like, and how they were done, that people just felt like it was wrong, was a change to the radio airplay and how it was sent because of the charts and how they were sent. About, I think it was 1998, where the radio songs that were songs had to be actual singles being played on the radio for it to be considered on the Hot 100, which took away some songs that did not get into the Hot 100. And instead, they had a Hot 100 airplay chart. So a song had to come out as an actual single for it to be eligible to be charted. But there were so many songs that were coming from movie soundtracks that did not chart. They would go into the airplay chart and not the Hot 100 itself. So a number of songs did not make the Hot 100, which was also really stupid. So the change of streaming at the time of 2007, there formerly was 55% radio airplay, 40% digital sales, 5% streaming, and physical sales, 1% of the composition in 2007. And then the March 3rd, 2013, Billboard started including YouTube streams, including audio from user-generated clips, at least granted that the clips were 30 seconds in length, and the user had viewed the clip for at least 30 seconds. So streaming had a noticeable portion of the Hot 100. In this point right here, 2013, you started seeing songs that was a real change on the chart because of what would make it up to the very top of the chart. Plenty of rap music, reggaeton, getting really popular at this point. So a lot of viral songs, thanks to YouTube, came all of a sudden into the charts and started becoming really popular. Bauer's Harlem Shake was one of those, making it the number one. So as of 2018, 75% of streaming makes up the revenue of the American music industry. Of course, that's changed now. So the thing right now that as the Hot 100 is today, it's mostly impacted by streaming, and radio has the second highest impact, sales having the lowest impact. Yeah, because nobody's able to get really any sales generation at all. But yes, there is something to be said about the Hot 100's methodology that sales, airplay, and streaming all have to be at significant levels for these songs to make it to the top 10 or be number one on the charts. And they've also made some changes into the charts that some of the rigging that would have been done through streaming, because everything's being done online now, there have been some things they had to go and do to change the algorithm. And I don't know if it's gotten any better or not, but they've made changes. 2017, they announced they would split streams based on whether they were subscription, premium, or paid streams, ad-supported or free streams, or program streams. Premium streams would get the most value of what is counted on streaming. Free streams were 2/3 of those plays. Program streams were 1/2 of the original point value. But now it's all changed. The other thing, too, that they also have not done to make a change is the recurrence rule. So recurrence is a chart policy implemented in 1991 with the SoundScan inclusion in the Hot 100. Older songs that have charted for a certain amount of time are automatically removed from the chart should they chart below a certain position. The logic behind the new rule came in with the policy changes that because SoundScan accurately reflects how a song lingers around the chart, Billboard wanted to keep the Hot 100 fresh and constantly represent new breakout talent. So the recurrence rule they had is that if a song charts for 20 weeks and charts below number 20 any week after the 20th week, it would be removed from the charts, the 2020 rule. Well, that rule's changed now. Now we're more to the 50-20 rule. So if a song charts for 20 weeks and charts below number 50 any week after the 20th week, it will be removed from the charts. So now we have songs that are up there for over a year and they do not drop. Now, of course, there's also the part where there's been a whole lot of changes to the methodology that have come in as well that everybody's all worried about as we know as we speak. Got it. But radio and the airplay, and because of the fact that songs are recurring, See, the recurrence rule that they have right now keeps songs on the charts. And then radio's airplay, because they did not want to take songs off the chart, also affects airplay. Do you understand where we're going with here? They don't make changes to it. Let's just look at the top 15 right now of the year end so far on the charts. Just so you see where we have things right now. In the top 15 of the songs that are on here in the 2025 Hot 100, you have songs now that have been on here for months, all right? Timeless, The Weeknd and Playboy Cardi has been up there. It's number 15. It's been up there 26 weeks. Sabrina Carpenter's Taste, 31 weeks. Beautiful Things, Benson Booth, 61 weeks, excuse me. Not Like Us, I Had Some Help, 46 weeks consecutively, respectively. 50 weeks for Espresso, 23 weeks for Apt. Lose Control, 84 weeks on the chart. It should have been recurring a long time ago. Birds of a Feather, 45 weeks. A Bar Song, Shabuzi, 50 weeks. 32 weeks for Die With A Smile. When you look at the airplay, the units sold that they have in terms of the calculations on this, top 3 songs have more than 500 million to over 1 billion spins of airplay. And others the same way goes. They all have to have something of a very high level of airplay to get them up. Units sold between 2 and 3.8 million units sold. And streaming's not even put on here yet, but that's also considered in the whole point. But streaming only has so much of a point to it because of how they grade it. But that's the problem, is that airplay is such an important factor. Sales, I understand. It absolutely should be considered as part of this here, but really, what do we have as everything else? It's just too much. And that's the part they want to go ahead and consider as the real reason why everything should be the way it is. I don't agree with that. And it's a problem that we have consistently. Our current list right now is Luther at number 1, Die With A Smile, Bar Song, Tipsy Shabuzi, again back on the chart. Just in case, Morgan Wallen, established artist, does get to go ahead and debut. There have not been many debuts into the hot top 10. That's happened. That hasn't happened for a long time as well. Not much changes up here. Pink Pony Club with Chappell Roan, Lose Control with Teddy Swims, Drake Nokia, which debuted last week, Benson Boone's Beautiful Things, Not Like Us, Kendrick Lamar, and Apt. What a stalling of the charts we have right now. It's just not there. It needs to be something more to it, but it's not for whatever reason. And radio is able to go and do that. Now, the other thing they always talk about, well, the reason why streaming doesn't get too much of a push is because there's also the feeling of malicious chart manipulation by Payola from streaming. I can understand that part. I can see that, but why do all these other markets, they're able to go and do something towards that? Honestly, if you want to go and count streaming overall, count the premium subscribers on their streaming. Do not count those that are on a free subscription. Just count the premium subscribers. They're the ones that really matter. If you just took them, you would really then realize, okay, there's something to this. But they don't want to do that. I made mention of it in 1998. There was a decision made to allow songs that were not initially released as commercial singles to enter the Hot 100. That part I don't mind at all. Like, if you look at what Spotify puts out as their top 200, I'll put it to you like this. The bottom half of that chart, the global 200, is consumed with a lot of recurrence, which is fine. But at the end of the day, if you look at the charts that Spotify has, they still come up with a chart that's pretty good. Pretty good because they are counting everything, and their setup at the end of the day is justified with what they have. It really is. If you look at the weekly top songs on the global end, you see the amount of streams. And by the way, they're able to go and count their streams pretty effectively so they'll know what's out there. But when it's all said and done, the current charts that they have much more credence than everybody else does. it's nothing close to what radio has. Right now, the current global 200 of the Spotify charts at this moment, which will change as I record this, you have a couple of Bad Bunny singles from his album DTMF that are still charting and still streaming very well. Jenny's Like Jenny's number 9. That's So True. Gracie Ames is 8. Ordinary Alex Warren. Luther Kendrick Lamar SZA, which is, again, number 1 over on the, or I don't know if it's Die With a Smile right now or not, but either which way. You have then Anxiety and Doechii at number 4. Birds of a Feather, Billie Eilish at 3. But again, it's streaming very well. So you can understand what that song is doing as it's doing. Apt is 2. Die With a Smile, 1. But at least I'm okay with that. Like, as a popular point, you're seeing some songs that could make their way into the charts and be able to go ahead and move up. They could find their way to... They could find their way to get into the top of the charts if they wanted to. Because in this top 10 right here, Apt is 23 weeks, 32 weeks for Die With a Smile, 45 weeks for Birds of a Feather. Anxiety is relatively new. Luther's 18 weeks. Ordinary is 7 weeks. DTMF 12 weeks. That's So True 23 weeks. Like Jenny 3 weeks. And Bad Bunny 12 weeks. But again, you have the songs that can be put in here that could easily make their way up to the number 1. In streaming, if something is going to be really popular and really big, it can make its way up to number 1. And that's okay. Hell, Evil Jordan was up to number 2 last week. Playboi Carti and his new album. That song quickly dropped back down. And because of the album bomb that happened last week, that's what changed kind of things up. And then everything just kind of corrected itself. But there's room for artists to come out here and put some new music out there and chart. And if you're following the charts, if you're a radio station, you can have new music and you can have some established music out there and have a pretty good format. You really could. But they don't want to do that here. Because there's plenty of songs that could get dropped in here and really make their way up. Dark Thoughts, Little Tekka. That's a song that can be pushed up forward. It just went up 30 places right now this week. In the second week it's out there. Fine. You might have some Spanish records that are on here. Other things that are out here that people will be interested in. Mona Lisa and J-Hope. That just got up to 27 on the debut. Almost 20 million streams. Got it. There's just things you see here. Of course, there's some songs that are going to be around for a long time and they will continue to be streamed. Which is at least a real representation. With streaming now today, yes, you're going to have songs that people are going to go back to over and over again. And they find some songs that still have a lot of value to them and they feel like they want to go back to as much as they want. So Good Luck Babe will still chart. Lose Control to These Ones will still chart. That's fine. But at least you'll see new music comes up and make their way up. The other thing too is because of this right here, I feel like there is something about the current state of the music industry where new music doesn't get pushed out that much. And if it does, there's nobody really behind it to go and push it farther. The thing is that a lot of artists have to just rely on streaming and using social media to promote themselves. And that's it. And YouTube. There's not much else. But the traditional linear outlets that could help to go and boost songs to go forward, they're not. The thing is, radio won't take a chance on new records to try to get them pushed up. When was the last time you heard about radio getting a song viral? It doesn't happen anymore. But imagine if they were still playing New Music Discovery and they allowed themselves to go and move a song up the charts. If radio were able to go and have their control of radio airplay and allow some new music to be put on and give it a chance to give a particular song or something that's really good, give that a platform. Let it get amplified. Radio doesn't want to do that because they want to stick to the bona fide hits they can get. And now the format is in play where, well, they're playing the songs that are on the charts for the most part, but radio is not supposed to be what streaming is. For those that want to go ahead and listen to Lose Control or Good Luck Babe or Espresso or whatever they want and hear it over and over, well, that's one thing. That's not every bit of the audience that wants to do that. You want to give them a fresh list of new music. And so where are people finding new music discovery? Well, if you're like me, you go around looking for it. But for some people, it's like, well, You can't leave it up to the listeners to discover new music themselves unless somebody else helps them discover it. If somebody else gives word to mouth, or they see something somewhere on social media that says, oh, I should pick the song up. But what else do you do? Radio used to be the harbinger. They were the tastemaker. They could go ahead and draw people together and say, hey, DJ says this song's good. You should play it. You should listen to it. Go find it. And if there's enough groundswell, then it goes up there. Hey, isn't it to be just a music challenge that offers a song to be really going ahead and gets moved up to the top? Right? That's part of the reason why Sports Car and Tate McRae was able to get to the top 10 of radio, is because of music challenges. How many girls did you see on TikTok that are all dancing to the sports car challenge? They did. Just like everything else has gone up like that. From 2020 up to now, a music challenge that was really popular would always make a song go up. That's just the way it was. And we don't have anyone right now that's helping us to establish new stars. A place where we could find new stars and get them amplified. We would have a lot of TV shows that would do that for us. The Saturday Night Live did that for us? No. The late night shows, did he get any kind of pull? Not really. Like, where do you go to find the music to go ahead and see something that people could trust, people could go to? Like, where is that? Or where are the artists that could go and do that for themselves? If they're doing it by their own, that's one thing. But if you don't have these radio hosts doing work right now to talk to new artists, to showcase new artists, to play their music, and just do something out there. Like, how many of the artists we have that go on back in the day that needed radio to go and get themselves pushed? Lady Gaga, or Katy Perry, or Ariana Grande, right? Like, think about it. All the stars we always know and we've been so familiar with, they needed radio to help themselves get boosted. So where are they now? Nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. So, Billboard, what do you do to change this? It's either radio changes or Billboard has to make the change. And I don't know if they want to make the change. I think the one thing they need to do, if they can make any changes right now, is the recurrence rule needs to change. There needs to be room for the songs that have been on the charts for so long. You know what? You want to put it into a different chart and put it out there so it can be noticed. You got the Global 200. Use that. Recurrence can go there. If artists still want to go and promote the fact that their songs are still charting, fine. Or put a streaming chart out there. Or don't even do it because Spotify and Apple Podcasts can do it themselves. Well, what you do instead is you say, hey, you know what? It just changes. But radio could also be doing something to really change things up too. I don't know what that's supposed to be and how they're going to do it, but they got to figure out something. I don't know what it's going to be, but they got to figure it out. But don't get me wrong, there's a lot of songs right now that are still very prominent and popular, and there is a reason why they're on the charts for as long as they are. But let's be honest here. If you had certain songs that were not in recurring to such a detriment as they are now, or Lose Control, Beautiful Things, Not Like Us, which have 47 to 62 weeks of airplay, or weeks on these charts streaming, and they've been around for just as long on radio, they're not getting anywhere. 50 weeks for a bar song, Subuzi, and staying up at the top is where it was. It's also the music industry not doing anything about it either. They're not doing a thing about to fix this. But that's what's going on. They got to make changes to it. And I hope they figure it out at some point, because it really is a dire need for it. There's a few more things I want to go and get into that have changed up. A big story coming out for Amazon, looking to make a last-minute bid for TikTok. So, New York Times reports that 3 people familiar with the bid, Amazon's trying to go and buy all of TikTok. Right now, the deadline that the White House had put on for TikTok to be sold was April 5th. So there are quite a few buyers right now for TikTok, and Amazon might be the most serious bid. Now, there are some people that say that Amazon's bid might be unserious, but We're still waiting to go and find out. Now, Amazon had tried to previously attempt to replicate TikTok with their own short-form video shopping feature called Inspire, but it was killed off in February, over a year after it was introduced. There's also Oracle looking to go ahead and try to possibly buy up. But at the moment, we are hearing a bunch of people that are actually looking at the going, buy the part. Let's see what happens. Billionaire Frank McCourt and Jesse Tinsley, founder of payroll company Employer.com, have expressed interest. Zoop, a startup run by Tim Stokely, the founder of OnlyFans, announced his own bid for TikTok U.S. operations. Singo is partnering with cryptocurrency foundation Hedera and established communications channels with the White House about this. But that's what we're waiting for right now. Let's see if they're going to have anything done. But we are coming up to the TikTok deadline, and Amazon looks like one of the better suitors for it. We'll hopefully find out about that very soon. And hopefully by next week, we will get the answer for it and be able to go and talk about it. In other TikTok news, TikTok has decided to launch a soft launch for TikTok for Artists. So it's a new service that offers analytics tools, artist analytics tools, SNS, to see how their music is performing on the platform and what sort of content fans are engaging with. And the artists will also get access to features for promoting their music. So they're going to get to go and see the numbers to say, okay, what's working of their content that they can do better with. That's great news. So right now it's being rolled out in 5 markets: Australia, Indonesia, Japan, New Zealand, and South Korea. And it'll be in more markets very soon. Now, same thing's already happened for folks on Spotify and SoundCloud, offering analytics and promotional tools. But like Spotify service, but unlike SoundCloud, it'll be free to use. And the TikTok version will also offer pre-save campaigns for artists who have set up pre-ad on Apple Music or a countdown page on Spotify for upcoming album or EP release. Very nice. Some other stories that came out with just a lot of reports that are out this week. Music Watch, a market research firm, focused on music consumption trends. They say that 50 million more Americans are buying music in 2024 compared to a decade ago. So physical formats like CDs and vinyl and digital downloads. So they're saying that approximately 132 million Americans in 2024, ages 13 to 70, paid for a music subscription, such as on-demand services, streaming services, or satellite radio. And the surge in music buyers far exceeds the U.S. population growth, where the increase is just not a result of more people, but a genuine rise in interest and willingness to spend on music. Also, they're saying in 2024, Americans spent an average of $112 per capita on recorded music, up from $80 in 2014. Interesting stuff. Story from Barrett Media. They talk about the Q 2025 in-vehicle visuals report. Talk to me about how radio brands are displayed on car dashboards and infotainment systems. That right now, of new car models with audio options, 66% are equipped with HD radio capabilities, despite a recent surge in built-in streaming apps. 74% of models are audio forward, meaning the car generally defaults to the last audio source. 26% radio forward, meaning the in-vehicle dash offers a designated radio button. 100% of models have FM radio compatibility, AM radio 98%, and 67% of vehicles equipped with HD radio is slightly down from 70% in 2023. SiriusXM being available in 94% of models in 2025, coming with the equipment. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are 98% of models right now in 2025. 100% of models came equipped with text displays for radios and an additional 60% featuring image displays. And finally, a report for the folks at Odyssey. Their latest State of Audio report says that 40% of CMOs, Chief Marketing Officers, they say they're under pressure to improve ROI and demonstrate attribution, but the news isn't all bad. Audio they see as more measurable than ever. And they say from the fourth quarter of 2024 data from the podcast advertising agency Oxford Road, 64% of advertisers drive lower funnel performance goals via audio. And brand lift studies cited in the report show gains of 14.5% for purchase intent, 60.5% for brand affinity, and 12% for favorability, whatever that means. So they're saying in here is that audio conversions are worth the wait. Unlike online digital ads, radio doesn't go for the instant gratification of page clicks. It plays a long game. 8% of a radio's ad impact occurs in the first 20 minutes, with the rest rolling out over time. So you might get some people in, but they're saying you take the long run, you're going to get more people to go ahead and follow along because the constant burrowing and constant repetition of ads that you hear on radio are going to make people go ahead and go engage with the product or service that's being put. That's what they're saying with that. Attribution, among other things. And one other story I got to bring up, that lawmakers are urging the FCC to fast track media ownership rule reforms. We talked about this. Keep it going right here. So we know about the federal courts and what they're dealing with right now. That as the FCC chair is going to dive into the quadrennial review, a bipartisan group of 73 members say move as quickly as possible for the ownership. These lawmakers are saying that updating the rules are not just an urgent economic necessity, it's a public service imperative. So they're trying to say, hurry it up. Let's get to the ownership rules and make it so that all these other companies can go and buy in. They're saying it's for the sake of local content, whatever. And what's more is being said is that when broadcasters, quote, cannot combine or expand operations, they struggle to maintain sufficient newsroom staff and invest in journalism. Reforming outdated ownership rules is essential to ensuring that broadcasters remain viable, competitive, and capable of fulfilling their essential role in American democracy. By modernizing these regulations, the FCC can empower broadcasters to better serve their communities, promote local journalism, and compete in the modern media marketplace. Yeah, but we don't need the ownership rules to be where you're going to have the same amount of people being held up, where the same big number of media companies can come in and buy up stations. And then what happens? Same thing goes. We're in the same rule as we always are, where you'll have more radio stations owned by one company or a couple of companies, and that's it. And are they going to do anything for the local public? Are they going to do anything to bring in more resources, bring in more manpower, bring in more resources to go and do news? Of course they don't. The lawmakers are saying one thing, but the lobbying dollars are also saying, well, we're saying this just to go and make sure that we can get more money off these big corporations. Come back for the Broadcasters Podcast. Remember, content is king. Control of your content is in your hands.